Hey, I got tears in my eyes. I'm not doing no fake laughing. Listen, man, I gotta give a shout out to the Keep the Vision chat, man. Y'all have been telling me for months the WNBA owners should send new CBA proposals offering less and less each.
That laugh right there, that's the sound of someone who's been watching this unfold exactly as predicted. And what just got confirmed is going to fundamentally reshape the WNBA's economic structure. Because while everyone's been focused on who gets the max contracts, there's a group of players who just found out they're about to take a massive pay cut. And the Angel Reese ratings disaster that just dropped, it handed the owners even more leverage than they already had.
Man, that was funny. Angel Reese, unrivaled debut versus the High, brought in 130,000 viewers. Now, the real number that you pay attention to is right here. It was 40,000 viewers, okay? In that age group of people you want to attract and people that you keep watching, not people that turn away from it and all that stuff. 40,000 views, not good. So
130,000 viewers. That's what Angel Reese's highly promoted return to Unrivaled brought in on January 17th. But here's the number that actually matters to advertisers and league executives. 40,000 viewers in the key demographic. 40,000, for context, that's roughly what a mid-tier college volleyball match pulls on ESPN2 on a Tuesday afternoon. Paige Bucher's debut the week before? 30,000 viewers in that same demo. These aren't just disappointing numbers. They're a business case study in what happens when you market players as stars who can't actually move the needle without one specific person on the court with them.
It just goes to prove the point that that league, the WNBA, is not as full of stars like y'all think y'all are. It's the Caitlin Clark show in that league. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. Okay? Now, let's get to Annie Scoops, Annie Costable on Front Office Sports. You can go on her Twitter and find this. She got the article posted up and all that, or you can go on Front Office Sports, get that good old subscription.
And every time another one of these stars returns to Unrivaled and the ratings stay flat, it proves the same point. The WNBA isn't a league full of equally marketable talent. It's the Caitlin Clark show with a supporting cast. That's not opinion. That's what the viewership data demonstrates week after week. Breanna Stewart, Kelsey Mitchell, Nafisa Collier, all playing in Miami, and the numbers barely move. The league's entire economic model for the new CBA was built on the assumption that multiple players could drive revenue. These unrivaled ratings just proved that assumption wrong, right as negotiations entered the final stretch.
Make no mistake about it. Here it says, when the league does finally get back to basketball, things will look very different, okay? Here it says, whenever the WNBA and the Players Union are done at the negotiating table and basketball returns, the league will likely have its first $1 million player, okay? I want to get to the main part. Here it says, now the WNBA is offering Supermax base salary of roughly $1.13 million or 20% of the proposed $5.65 million salary cap in year one. But sources have said the seven-figure payday for some will come at a cost of others. This will come at a cost of others. Okay.
So let's talk about what just leaked. Front Office Sports reporter Annie Costable broke down the WNBA's latest CBA proposal on January 22nd, and it reveals an economic structure that's going to create clear winners and clear losers. The Supermax salary would hit $1.13 million, which sounds impressive until you understand what it means for everyone else on the roster. That Supermax accounts for 20% of the proposed $5.65 million salary cap in year one. The standard max comes in at roughly $988,000, eating up another 17.5%. So before you've signed anyone else, nearly 40% of your cap space is gone if you have two max players. Now here's where it gets brutal for the middle tier. Rookie scale contracts are getting bumped up to protect incoming talent, which is smart for the league's future. But that increase has to come from somewhere. The salary cap isn't expanding fast enough to protect everyone.
This would account for 20% of the salary cap. So one player is going to be responsible for 20% of the salary cap. Now imagine if you got two of them. That's nearly half the money gone, and you got 10, 11 other people that got to get paid. It ain't that much. All right, make sure you follow it. Make sure you follow me on this walk. The Supermax would account for 20% of the salary, and the standard max will roughly and the standard max roughly 988,750, 988,000, whatever, would take up to 17.5%. Unlike the current CBA, players would not be eligible to earn the Supermax through a sign and trade deal. The Supermax in 2025 was 249,000. The standard was 214. Here it says the average league salary. Okay, the average.
Let's run the math on a real team. Take the Indiana Fever. If they pay Kelsey Mitchell that $1.13 million Supermax, then spend the combined $1 million on Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark's mandated rookie-scale contracts, that leaves approximately $3.4 million to fill 9 more roster spots, including newly drafted players. That works out to roughly $382,000 per player, or 6.7% of the cap per roster spot. The proposed average league salary is $470,000. You see the problem? The average salary is higher than what most teams can actually afford to pay most of their players once they've locked in their stars and rookies. The Las Vegas Aces situation is even more stark. Ja Wilson commands the Supermax at $1.13 million. Kelsey Plum gets the standard max at $988,000. Chelsea Gray, given her importance to that system, probably pulls down close to max money. You're looking at 3 players consuming potentially 60% of the salary cap before you've addressed the rest of the championship roster.
Similar to the success of teams like Phoenix Mercury, Atlanta Dream, the Lynx, Liberty were contingent on the sacrifice of star players. But if 20% of the salary cap is embarked for Supermax players, that sacrifice will be even more drastic. A similar pay cut taken by Wilson under the new system would amount to $226,000 less per year. And with or without discounts from star players, serious gymnastics would be required to build a competitive roster, right? And
here's what makes this particularly calculated. The union leadership, the veteran players who sit on the board and speak for the Players Association, they're the ones who are going to benefit from this structure. Nafisa Collier, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, they're getting their Supermax money. The rookies coming in have their scale protected. But if you're a 27-year-old role player, a solid defender who starts but doesn't make all-star teams, a bench scorer who gives you efficient minutes, you just got squeezed out. The middle class of the WNBA is about to take a significant financial hit, and the players who negotiated this deal are the ones who won't feel it.
This equates to roughly $382,000 or 6.7% of the cap per player, and that's if Indiana has 1 max player on its roster. This is almost $100,000 less than the proposed average salary. The more stark example is the Aces. Okay, so basically, with this deal, the stars are going to get paid, the rookies are going to get paid. The middle tier, the role players, y'all not getting nothing. Y'all taking a hit. Y'all taking a hit. The union's proposals have not included max and minimum salaries until this point. Instead, they are trying to reach an agreement on salary cap before agreeing to how it's split up among players. However, sources have said that the union would like to see a similar percentage that's been proposed by the league to go to max salaries. So these WNBA veterans and board leaders that you guys are letting speak for you, middle class players and all of that, younger people, players, you've just let them screw you. Get down in the comments, let me know what you think.
So let's connect these two stories, because they're not separate issues. The unrivaled ratings disaster happens on January 17th. Angel Reese returns, 40,000 viewers in the demo. Paige Budiker's debut, 30,000. These numbers demonstrate conclusively that without Caitlin Clark, the league's other marketed stars can't drive viewership. That information gets back to the owners immediately. Then on January 22nd, just 5 days later, the CBA proposal details leak, showing a structure that protects stars and rookies but crushes the middle class. You think that timing is coincidental? The owners just got handed concrete evidence that the WNBA's revenue growth is dependent on 1 player, not a deep roster of stars. That gives them enormous leverage to argue that the salary cap can't be as high as the union wants, because the revenue projections were based on faulty assumptions about who actually drives the business. The union asked for a salary cap just under $9.5 million. The league offered $5.65 million in year 1. That's a 40% gap, and the unrivaled ratings just gave the owners ammunition to defend that lower number. Think about the position this puts the middle-tier players in. They can't afford a prolonged lockout. The stars can go overseas, sign endorsement deals, wait it out. The rookies have their draft stock and future earnings to protect. But a 28-year-old making $200,000 who needs that paycheck to cover her mortgage, she can't hold out for months. The owners know this. The union leadership knows this, and the CBA structure reflects that reality. Here's what makes it even more problematic. The union sources told Front Office Sports that they would like to see a similar percentage going to max salaries as what the league proposed. Read that again. The union wants the same max salary structure that squeezes the middle class. The Players Association is advocating for a deal that benefits the top and bottom of the roster at the expense of the middle. That's not solidarity. That's the stars taking care of themselves. And you can see how this plays out in team construction. General managers are going to have to make brutal choices. Do you keep your veteran role players who know the system but cost $400,000? Or do you replace them with younger players on minimum contracts and hope you can develop them fast enough? Do you sacrifice depth for top-end talent? The league is incentivizing teams to build top-heavy rosters with cheap supporting casts that might create more individual star power, but it's questionable whether it creates better basketball or more competitive balance. The unrivaled experiment was supposed to prove that women's basketball had multiple marketable stars who could drive their own content and revenue. Instead, it's proving the opposite, and that failure is going to have real financial consequences for players who aren't named Caitlin Clark, Aja Wilson, or Breanna Stewart. The middle class of the WNBA is about to find out that their union leadership negotiated them right out of financial security. So here's the question that matters. Was this inevitable, or did the union make strategic mistakes that led to this outcome? Because if you're a role player watching this unfold, you have to be asking why your union representatives negotiated a structure that protects everyone except you. The owners were always going to try to minimize costs. That's what owners do. But the union is supposed to protect all players, not just the stars. And this CBA proposal suggests they failed that mission. The lockout could still happen. The players could still reject this deal. But every day that passes, every unrivaled game that posts weak ratings, every piece of evidence that the league's revenue growth is narrower than projected, it strengthens the owner's position and weakens the leverage of the players who need this deal most. The middle class is running out of time and running out of options, and the people who were supposed to be fighting for them just negotiated them into a corner.